Have you ever wondered how your body gets the oxygen it needs every second of the day? Even when you're sleeping, your body is still breathing. But breathing is not just about air going in and out. Inside your body, a powerful system of organs works together to deliver oxygen to your blood and remove carbon dioxide. Today, we're going to explore the human respiratory system and understand the organs that make breathing possible. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how oxygen travels from the air around you all the way into your bloodstream. Let's begin. The respiratory system is the group of organs responsible for breathing and gas exchange. Its main job is simple but extremely important: to bring oxygen into the body and remove carbon dioxide. Oxygen is needed by every cell in your body to produce energy. Without oxygen, human cells begin to die within minutes. The respiratory system works closely with the circulatory system, which transports oxygen through the blood to all parts of the body. The journey of air through your body follows a specific pathway through several organs. Let's explore each one step by step. 1. The nose and nasal cavity. The nose is the main entrance for air into the respiratory system. When you inhale, air first enters through your nostrils and moves into the nasal cavity. But the nose does much more than just let air in. It performs 3 important functions. First, it filters the air. Tiny hairs inside the nose trap dust, dirt, and harmful particles. Second, the nose warms the air so that it matches the body's internal temperature. Third, it moistens the air, preventing the lungs from drying out. Inside the nasal cavity is a sticky substance called mucus, which traps bacteria and other harmful microorganisms. This is why sneezing sometimes happens. It's the body's way of clearing unwanted particles from the nasal passages. After the air is filtered, warmed, and moistened, it moves deeper into the respiratory tract, to the pharynx throat. After leaving the nasal cavity, air travels to the pharynx, which is commonly known as the throat. The pharynx is a muscular tube that serves as a shared pathway for both air and food. It connects the nose and mouth to the larynx and esophagus. When you breathe, air passes through the pharynx toward the lungs. However, when you swallow food, a small flap called the epiglottis closes over the airway to prevent food from entering the lungs. This is why sometimes when food accidentally goes into the airway, people start coughing. The body is trying to remove the obstruction. The pharynx therefore plays a key role in directing air safely toward the lungs. 3. The larynx voice box. Next in the respiratory pathway is the larynx, often called the voice box. The larynx sits just below the pharynx and has 2 important roles. First, it keeps the airway open, allowing air to pass into the lungs. Second, it contains the vocal cords, which help us produce sound. When air passes through the larynx, it causes the vocal cords to vibrate. These vibrations create sound waves that allow us to speak, sing, and communicate. The pitch of your voice changes depending on how tight or loose the vocal cords are. The larynx is also protected by the epiglottis, which prevents food and liquids from entering the respiratory tract. Once air passes through the larynx, it moves into the trachea. For the trachea windpipe, the trachea, commonly known as the windpipe, is a tube that connects the larynx to the lungs. It acts like a highway for air, carrying oxygen toward the lungs and carbon dioxide away from them. The trachea has a unique structure that helps it function effectively. It is supported by C-shaped rings of cartilage that keep the airway open. Without these rings, the trachea could collapse when we breathe. Inside the trachea are tiny hair-like structures called cilia. Cilia move mucus upward toward the throat, carrying trapped dust, bacteria, and other harmful particles out of the lungs. This cleaning mechanism helps keep the respiratory system healthy. At the lower end of the trachea, the airway splits into 2 branches called the bronchi. 5. The bronchi. The bronchi are the 2 main tubes that lead directly into the lungs. One bronchus goes to the right lung, and the other goes to the left lung. These tubes continue dividing into smaller branches, forming a structure that looks very similar to a tree. Because of this branching pattern, the respiratory system is sometimes called the bronchial tree. The bronchi distribute air throughout the lungs so that oxygen can reach every part of them. As the bronchi branch further, they become smaller tubes called bronchioles. The bronchioles are tiny air passages found inside the lungs. They are much smaller than the bronchi and continue to branch many times. Their job is to carry air deeper into the lungs until it reaches the final respiratory structures. Unlike the trachea and bronchi, bronchioles do not contain cartilage. Instead, their walls contain smooth muscle that can expand or contract. This helps regulate how much air flows into different parts of the lungs. At the ends of the bronchioles are tiny air sacs called alveoli, where the most important part of respiration happens. The alveoli are extremely tiny air sacs located at the end of the bronchioles. Although they are microscopic, they are incredibly important. The human lungs contain about 300 million alveoli. These structures are where gas exchange occurs. Each alveolus is surrounded by tiny blood vessels, called capillaries. When you inhale, oxygen enters the alveoli. The oxygen then passes through the thin walls of the alveoli and moves into the bloodstream. At the same time, carbon dioxide from the blood moves into the alveoli. When you exhale, that carbon dioxide leaves the body. This process ensures that the blood receives the oxygen it needs while removing waste gases. Without the alveoli, oxygen would never reach the bloodstream. The lungs are the main organs of the respiratory system. They are located in the chest cavity, protected by the rib cage. Humans have two lungs, the right lung and the left lung. The right lung is slightly larger because the heart takes up space on the left side of the chest. The lungs contain millions of bronchioles and alveoli that allow oxygen to enter the blood. Although the lungs themselves cannot move, they expand and contract during breathing. This movement is made possible by another important structure, the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a large dome-shaped muscle located below the lungs. It plays a major role in the mechanics of breathing. When you inhale, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward. This increases the space inside the chest cavity and allows the lungs to expand. As the lungs expand, air is drawn into them. When you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and moves upward. This reduces the space in the chest cavity, pushing air out of the lungs. Without the diaphragm, breathing would not be possible. Now that we've explored the organs individually, let's quickly look at how they work together. When you inhale, air enters through the nose, moves through the pharynx, passes the larynx, travels down the trachea, splits into the bronchi, moves through the bronchioles, reaches the alveoli. Oxygen then enters the bloodstream and is transported to the entire body. At the same time, carbon dioxide travels back through the same pathway and leaves the body. When you exhale, this entire process happens about 20,000 times every day. And most of the time, you don't even notice it happening. The respiratory system is one of the most vital systems in the human body. From the nose to the lungs, each organ plays a unique role in making sure our bodies receive the oxygen we need to survive. Without this system, the cells in our body would not be able to produce the energy needed for life. Every breath you take is the result of a perfectly coordinated process involving multiple organs working together. So the next time you take a deep breath, remember the incredible system inside your body that makes it possible. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new about the human respiratory organs, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more simple and fascinating explanations about the human body. And in the comments below, tell us which organ in the respiratory system surprised you the most. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.